I'm William WhiteCrow, your host, and welcome to Quantum Quest Radio, the show that entwines science, the spirit, and time itself to bring you closer to true reality. And today's show is sponsored by the Crow's Place Store. And as I've said before, you just go to WilliamWhiteCrow.com, go to the upper menu, click on the Crow's Place Store, and you're there. This is a place where service and high-quality herbal products are the name of the game, and new products are being added all the time. And also for NorthwestSafetyandSecurity.com, the place that takes your personal, home, and business safety and security needs seriously. If you go there, you'll see they have dash cams, bug detectors, complete home surveillance systems, as well as they're battery-operated outdoor early warning systems for every need. We use them around here. Matter of fact, we use a lot of their security products around here. And today, we have a good friend of mine on with me. We're going to go ahead and skip the news because I think this is very important. He's been working on a trilogy of books, and this is his first one out. And he's a good friend of mine, Derek Tyler. And we talk about some personal experiences. He's definitely went through them. So, Derek, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your book.
Hi, it's nice to be here, William. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm honored.
You betcha.
I'm a full-time researcher, a ufologist. It was not anything that I planned to do. It came about as a result of some sightings that I had, specifically quite a spectacular sighting that I had in 1984, which lasted for 42 minutes and involved a pair of F-16s. Wow. The craft in question at that time was very large, and it was hovering probably 3 feet off the ground. The F-16s buzzed it. They got there 20 minutes after the craft did, and they buzzed it for 22 minutes. Obviously not happy that it was there, but they didn't fire on it. But it was such a spectacular and clear sighting that there was no longer any question about whether or not we were being visited or whether or not the government was aware of it. Mm-hmm. So after that, I eventually drifted into being a full-time ufologist. I used to run an IRC channel back in the 90s, which was, I didn't think anyone would have a reason to come to it, but much to my surprise, it became the biggest UFO channel on IRC, which was an early form of internet chat.
Wow. And
through that channel, I ended up interviewing, well over 2,000 abductees before I dogged the channel. And the number is well over 3,000 now. I stopped counting at 2,000 years and years ago, back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And I also was able to make some contacts on the inside, which were, I would have to say, beyond my wildest dreams. They were such high-level contacts, and they came to me. I didn't seek them out. And they were kind enough to give me some briefings on the situation involving the government and aliens specifically, and some information about abductions. And after that, I became a full-time researcher. I released a book last fall called Alien Contact: The Difficult Truth, mm-hmm. which I worked on for 2 years, and it's got tons of information in there that's never been published before. No matter who you are, you're going to find stuff in there that you've never seen in print or heard before. And I hope that you'll take a chance on that book and check it out. You won't be disappointed if you do. It's actually, I'd originally started to write one book, but it's going to actually take 5 books, to the best of my...
Oh, wow.
Best of my,
that's quite a few. Last time we talked, it was 3. Now it's going to be 5. I mean, that's going to be a great series.
I just don't think I can fit it in less than that. The things that I want to discuss, there's a lot of things I've learned in my life, and I thought it would kind of be a shame to go to my grave and let it all just die with me. So I'd like mm-hmm. to share it with my brothers and sisters, and that's why I'm writing these books.
You betcha. I think that's a great idea. It's part of the reason why I'm writing my Earth Time Chronicles, too, is because there's a lot of information that people really we need to get out there. A lot of people just don't want to believe certain things, but sometimes they have to be slapped in the head and woke up, as we say.
The information is so hard to come by that most people will never have a way to get to this information. I was very fortunate. Some people win the lottery on their first try. Some people get hit by lightning when they're playing golf, and I just happen to get some good connections. And I can't let this information go without sharing it around, because I think it's very critical.
I do too. I think it's very critical. The first thing that I want to ask you here is, what was besides the first one you just mentioned, what was your most memorable experience being abducted?
Well, being abducted, that's a tough question, because I have a number of very clear memories of my abductions. Most of the time, as you know, they they try to erase your memory, and most of the time they are successful. Even in my case, I'm sure that 95% of the time I can't remember what took place, but a number of times I woke up right after they returned me home, both alien abductions and military abductions. I've gone through both. And when that happened, I was able to retain quite a clear memory of what went on, and I wrote it down immediately so that I wouldn't forget. And what was maybe the most startling, I don't know. I suppose being exposed to one thing that I might never have believed in if I hadn't seen it myself, which was that our military and the aliens both have the ability to travel through time and to manipulate time.
They do. Yes, they do, very much so.
It was very surprising. And when we think about time travel, we usually think about like it's a one-shot deal, going back to see Abe Lincoln or the dinosaurs or something like that. But that's not how the military thinks of it at all, and it's not how the aliens think of it. They use it like we use microwave oven. So it's apparently, once you've got the technology to make it possible, it's not a difficult thing for them to accomplish. They used it for things that I would never have, in my wildest dreams, thought of using time travel for.
I agree.
So one of the things that they did was they brought me back. I have one memory of being returned home by gray aliens, and what they did was they returned me home a few seconds before they'd ever abducted me in the first place. And I could see my body out of sync with myself. I could see like my future body a few seconds ahead of me laying on the bed still asleep. And they floated me over my body, two grays. They dropped me down into my body. We were occupying the same place at the same time, but there was no sense of contact. They say that that's physically impossible, but it happened. And a few seconds passed. I synced up with my sleeping body in the bed. I woke up like I was asleep. The room was empty, and I had the memories of what had just occurred. But it's a use of time travel that never would have occurred to me.
Yeah.
But it's also a very insidious thing, because then, of course, no time has passed on the clock. There's no way to prove that you were ever taken at all.
Yes, exactly. And that's the way it was in the programs as well. We've talked about that quite a bit. And there's a misconception out there, you know. A lot of people's concept of time and time travel and everything is still stuck in the old ways that things can't be changed in a time sequence, when in reality I've seen it myself. And obviously if they took you back in time to just before and you've seen yourself there and you existed in the same place simultaneously, the grandfather clause is out the window. You agree?
It appears that way. I mean, I don't have the technical chops in physics to discuss time travel on a technical level, but the grandfather clause appears to be out the window, and they have shown me, by using it on me involuntarily during abduction events, that they can go both directions.
What have you learned about these aliens right now? What is their program for humanity?
Well, it does not appear to be anything beneficial to us. The Greys, they're nothing that I would ever want to meet again, and people that speak of the Greys as being their friends, I automatically stop listening to them when they do, because I assume that they're just either lying or they have no idea what they're talking about, because the Greys they were never friendly at all to me. They don't have any emotions such as we have. They're like worker bees or ants in an ant colony. They are, to the best of my knowledge, according to my military contacts, they are a genetically engineered race. They're created by the Draco reptilians and are used as slaves by them. And the military, by the way, also has their own Greys, because I've seen Greys working with our military during abductions also, and the military was in charge.
I've seen that myself.
The agenda does not seem to have anything to do with our welfare. We seem to be nothing more than a DNA farm, and we're treated as livestock. The Greys couldn't care less if they hurt you. They don't care if you're terrified, uncomfortable. They couldn't care less what you want. They're going to carry out whatever their assigned duties are, and they're going to do it regardless of your wishes or your feelings.
Well, a lot of people make the mistake, and I think you agree with this right here, that, you know, when they're talking about the Greys or any type of being out there, they're forgetting they're thinking in our term of emotional makeup and what we would do in things. And well, I'm going to tell you the outcome of the planning and the things of these Greys, of these aliens. And there's many different types of Greys, as we know. You know, then I agree with you 100% that the genetic engineered ones working for the military and everything, I've seen it myself. I've seen so many things when I was living down the Mojave Desert way. And my family, there's been a constant contact with us as well. What do you see the military doing with these graves right now? I mean, is this military complex, the industrialized complex in the U.S. government, or, as I call it, the breakaway society, this breakaway society in cahoots with them because they know what's going to happen to mankind? Have you heard anything about that?
Well, I would presume that they probably do know what's going to happen because, for one thing, because they've gone to so much expense and so much effort and trouble to construct the subglobal system, the underground network of bases and tunnels and railways that connects across this whole country and probably beyond our borders, for all I know. I believe that it probably does go beyond our borders. But it's said that the expense of this has been over $12 trillion, and it's still climbing. It's still being constructed. So they have prepared a place of shelter and refuge when apparently the surface world, in their opinion, is not going to be inhabitable. And it's stocked full. I can tell you for sure that those bases and tunnels are stocked full of equipment. They've got food. They've got natural water supplies. They've got air and sewage replenishment systems. They can survive down there for hundreds of years. They've got weapons. They've got tanks. I mean, they are set to defend themselves and to survive for hundreds of years without ever coming up if they have to.
So it sounds like these elites and these people really, and I agree with you, they're really, because we don't see it happen in the United States. We don't see civilian programs to make underground facilities just in case there's an EMP or a nuclear strike or anything of this nature. So it really seems like they're just going to leave the surface dwellers, shall we say, to fend off one another when the water and everything else starts happening. It's interesting because I've seen the same thing, and what's going on.
Yeah, they're absolutely going to leave us on our own.
Yeah.
I mean, those bases they're protected by. There are some places where you can gain entry into these underground tunnels, and they might appear to be like the entrance to a warehouse. If you open it up, and it's a road that goes down underground. The average depth of these tunnels is 5 to 7 miles underground, and it might appear to be the side of a mountain, but they've covered it up with holograms and with natural camouflage, and you look at it, and it will appear to be a sheer rock wall, but you can step right through it. And in other cases, these are sealed off by 25-ton blast doors, the same ones that they use at the NORAD facility in Cheyenne Mountain, and they're double or triple blast doors. Not one of them isn't considered secure enough. So they are ready for trouble. The only thing that can get through one of those blast doors is a direct nuclear hit. That's true, very true. So they're prepared for trouble, and the surface world is, in my opinion, we are being silently colonized because anyone who's familiar with abductions knows that they're hybridizing us, and I've seen it, I've experienced it myself. Well, according to historical records, they've been producing hybrids for a long time, a very long time. I think they've probably always been with us. But the question is, what are they doing with all these hybrids? Because that's a lot of hybrids.
That's true.
They are sending them out in the public, and they're living with us, they're working with us, they're interbreeding with us, and over time they will change the genetic structure of the entire human race.
Yes, I see them doing that right now. As a matter of fact, because of my experiences, I knew right off the top at a very young age, and I was told straight up off the top that humanity was going to be changed, that there was a hybridization program going on, and that the average human was going to be looked at as, oh, that's the old school one. They had a glitch, in a sense, because they're getting us ready. I personally believe, and I know this to be true from being in the programs, that our planet's surface is going to be changing in ways that we, as a society, never thought of, because we're just too into our comfort zones and things of that nature. What have you heard about the future of the planet and everything, if anything?
Well, I haven't heard anything good. I mean, the ways that this planet is changing, many of them are pre-planned and very intentional, and it's nothing that we would wish for if we were asked. I mean, they are adding radiation to the atmosphere in huge quantities. I'm sure that you've probably heard that the Fukushima event was not a natural disaster, but it was the result of an intentional weapon release which caused the earthquake, which caused the tsunami just for that purpose. Have you heard that?
I've heard that from several different sources, and then you got the other sources that are turning around and trying to turn around and say, oh, no, this can't be. The fact of the matter is we're seeing so many changes with our planet right now. You've got the government. This is what gets me. The government says, oh, there's no such thing as a the global warming and the things that are happening right now, but they're still spraying chemicals and everything up in the high atmosphere. They're literally changing, they're terraforming our planet. That's what I see happening right now. Is the same thing that they're doing on Mars. They're terraforming Mars up there right now. So that elite civilization that is here, part of that breakaway civilization, can move to Mars itself. What types?
And out of the box is the name of this game, friends.
Yes.
If you don't want to take your mind out of the box, you'll never understand what's happening with alien contact, because they are very much advanced over us, and the things that they do are literally beyond science fiction much of the time. And our government, people think that the military might be 30 or 40 years ahead of us in technology. It's not true. So in some cases, they are thousands of years ahead of us.
Yes.
For instance, when you go into those underground bases, they don't use the technology we use. They don't have telephones down there. They have holographic communication systems like you see in Star Wars. Help me, Obi-Wan. That's how they talk down there.
That's right.
It's a hologram of a person sitting in a chair. It looks like he's sitting in the same room speaking to you, and you can't tell the difference. Mm-hmm. But, in fact, it's just a hologram. And that's just a minor example. They've got technology which is alien-based, which is beyond your wildest imaginings. And they're using it now, and chemtrails are changing this. They're changing our atmosphere, and they've been doing it for 20 years that I know of. And they're changing it in ways which, as bad as you might think they are, it's even worse than that. It's horrifying what they're doing.
I agree.
It's all intentional.
Mm-hmm. And they're starting now to go up into the stratosphere. I mean, they're taking balloons higher. Obviously we have some big things coming. And they definitely know about this. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, your military contacts. What particular thing did they warn you about these extraterrestrials? Now, we got many different kinds. We're talking about, the whites, as they say, the Nordics. What particular ones have you had experience with, or have you had experience with all of them?
Oh, no, I haven't even had close to experience with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, my main experience was with the classic ETs, the almond, dark-eyed grays. I've seen one reptilian that I know of. I would say I've had one encounter with what they call a hat man, or a shadow being, which was the scariest of all encounters I've had. It was very brief, but it was absolutely terrifying. And my military contacts, one thing that they told me, which I have to say, at the time that I spoke to them, it's been a few years ago now, I didn't believe some of the things they told me because I simply didn't want to believe them. I wasn't ready. For instance, they said that the military is responsible for most of the abductions right now. And I didn't want to believe that our military would be involved in something like that. And I didn't believe it. And I learned the hard way that they were absolutely right about that. Most of my abductions have been military abductions. And
why do you think that is?
One thing that, well, the military is above the law, for one thing. There's, as one of my contacts said, who are you going to sue? You can't prove anything. And if you could, who are you going to name? You don't know any names. And if we say a document doesn't exist, how can you prove it does? You can't prove anything, so you can't. They're beyond the law. They can't get caught.
Very true.
And they are, as he said, you're worried about the aliens for good reason, but the military is a bigger danger to you even than the aliens are right now. Your own government nobody's more willing to play along with what the aliens want than the United States government. And elements of our government have clearly declared war on us.
Yes.
I mean, you don't break in and abduct. I mean, abducting someone is a capital crime under our law system. And they're doing it regularly, and they're doing it for purposes which have nothing to do with our well-being or safety. They're doing it purely for the military's own personal agenda. And it seems to very much be in line with what the hostile aliens are planning to do to this planet. Our government obviously has signed a treaty with the wrong side. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Boy, do I agree. And it's very obvious they don't care about the surface population and what's going on. And they keep this Middle East war going, and now the Korean situation. It's all smoke and mirrors to keep us looking in a different direction.
Right, and the aliens thrive on fear and chaos. They love fear and chaos. They love military actions because, boy, if you want to pick up some dead and dying people, there's no place better to do it than a battlefield at night.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just be listed as missing in action, and nobody will ever know. And UFOs are commonly seen around battlefields.
They're very much so.
Yeah, and they are extracting immense profits from this. If you took the alien influence out of our civilization, I don't think there would be hardly any wars in this world, because I've never met anyone who wants to go to war.
Well, it seems like our country's been around for over 200 years, and there's only been 10 or 15 years or something like that, or 20 years, that we haven't been in conflict with somebody. Now, you mentioned things about people disappearing, and I've had a couple of people ask me this, when you came on, they'd like you to get the answer to this question. How about those people who the children and everybody who just disappear, not only in the United States but around the world, never to be seen of again? What percentage of that population do you think these extraterrestrials or military is taking and using?
Well, I would think it's a very high percentage. As you know, some of those people, especially the young people, are used in the child slave trade, sex slaves, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it's alive and well even within America.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go into these third world countries such as India, you take kids from a socially outcast family, let's say, a lower caste family, let's say, the cops don't care. They're not going to get involved. Nothing's ever going to be said about that if the children are never found again. And it's commonly believed, and I agree, that the numbers of missing people are vastly underreported by the FBI and by other governments,
mm-hmm.
because they don't want us to know how many people are missing. The truth of it is, there are at least 3 different races of aliens which we know consume humans. The Greys are one. The Type 1 and Type 2 Greys both do it in different ways, and the Draco Reptilians do it in a horrifying way. And as far as I know, our military is involved in assisting them by abducting many of these children themselves and turning them over to the Greys, who turn them over to the Draco.
And why would they do that? Just to keep on their good side?
You keep feeding us and we'll stay underground.
Uh-huh. I was waiting for you to say that, definitely. Now, what do you think about the Dulce situation, the underground facility there? As far as I want to talk about another one, too, the Denver, Colorado. I've been in the facility underground there. Dr. Deagle and myself both have. And that network is extensive. You think just under the airport, you better think again. It's a vast city under there that goes down many, 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 many levels. But Dulce, has any of your contacts talked to you about Dulce in particular?
Well, Dulce was the one subject that they refused to talk about. I'm sure that they knew about it because
mm-hmm.
they were high enough up in rank that they had access to information that people would die long before they even get sight of,
Mm-hmm.
But the best contact that I had, I asked specifically about Dulce, and he said it's off limits. It's the one thing I can't talk to you about. As far as the other information that I've been able to come by, I think that everything that people have heard about Dulce is probably exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nightmare. It's a place of nightmares. It's a place where aliens occupy the lower levels. Humans are not allowed to go to those levels under penalty of death.
Mm-hmm.
They interact with aliens in the middle levels, which are laboratory and experimental levels, but they are not allowed to speak to them at all except for purposes of business in the labs. Once they're out of the labs, if the aliens speak to you or you speak to the aliens, it's a death sentence. And there are reportedly tens of thousands of people have been taken underground to that base to be experimented on with genetic experiments. They're creating chimeras. They are keeping these people prisoner there for a lifetime, and there's no way to access that to prove it or disprove it, because the security is so intense that civilians, we have no way to get there.
That's true, very true. And another thing, if your higher ups and the higher ups that I know as well are saying that this is off limits, something that we can't talk about, that should tell everybody there what's going on, really. When the military
right, and I'm talking about someone who's a general officer. I mean, he wasn't some dog face off the street. This was a general officer. He had stars on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And if he can't talk about it, nobody's going to talk about it. And they are, the people that they are hiring or employing, both in the military and civilian, at Dulce and at Area 51 and other bases like this, they are often required to consent to chemical memory erasure at the end of each shift.
That's right.
They step off shift, and they're subjected to drugs which will make them forget everything that's happened in the last 8 hours. They won't remember anything they did or who they did it to, and they have to agree to that or they don't get access.
That's very true, because I've talked to several CIA individuals, very deep individuals. As a matter of fact, one ran the CIA for a period of time under Bush. And he told me basically the same thing. There's things that are going on in Dulce and other areas in the United States where they won't even talk about it, but they say that they do have memory erasure programs, things going on. And they use this with my labs, too, after an abduction and everything. Once they go out and do what they're going to do, they erase their memories so they don't remember. But shocking events in an individual's lifetime always starts bringing these things to the surface. We got about 2 minutes here before the break goes on. Can you tell us about what started jogging your memory of some of these events?
Well, I had direct memories. At the first time that I had an abduction memory, although I don't think it was the first time I was abducted, I'd already interviewed literally thousands of abductees. One thing that you notice when you interview a lot of abductees is you hear the same story over and over and over.
That's right.
The standard operating procedure is the same, at least initially, for basically all abductees. And my first abduction memory was the same as the story that I'd heard told hundreds and hundreds of times, so I didn't have to wonder what was happening. I knew immediately. And I don't know if they got lazy or sloppy or what, but I just happened to have a number of very clear memories of my abductions. Most of them are erased or altered to the point that they're useless. But I have enough memories that it shocked me, and it's all included in my book. I tore it out of myself. It took 2 years to write that book because it was so hard to get those memories. It was so hard to convince myself to do it, basically.
Very true.
Your jaw will drop and your head will spin if you read that book. I can guarantee it.
And we're going to have to go to break right now, but I tell everybody, you want to go to Amazon and you want to get Derek's book because you want to understand what's going on, and we'll talk about that book a little more on the other side here. So we're going to go to break, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back here with Derek Tyler. And we were just talking in the break here, and we're talking about governments and religions and things of this nature and how they're connected. What do you think, Derek, about our presidents and our vice presidents? Who is in the know on this, or is the aspect of plausible deniability there for a reason?
Well, as far as I'm aware, the last president who was allowed to speak in person to an alien was Kennedy. And Kennedy had planned to go public with the alien situation, and he planned to dismantle the CIA, which he realized was basically completely out of control. And shortly after he announced those plans to his cabinet, he was taken out. And every president since has lived under that threat. The military, the attitude of the military is this: presidents come and presidents go. The longest they're going to be there is 8 years. They might only be there 4 years. But the military and the aliens are still going to be here long after they're gone. And we can't take the risk of some do-gooder like Jimmy Carter putting an end to the projects that we hold dear and the things that we've spent so much time and money and effort working on. So the president is certainly briefed about the alien presence in general. I think that he is treated probably like anyone else in the military. He's told what they feel he needs to know, but he's not told anything else. And he doesn't have any way to find that information. There are believed to be, and I'm sure that this is correct, the president has a security clearance level of 18 levels above top secret, compartmented levels. There are at least 32 levels that exist, which means there are at least 14 levels that we know of above presidential security level. So you have someone he has the ability with a phone call to start World War III, but he's not trusted with the information about the aliens.
Isn't that amazing?
It gives you a clear indication of how important that information is considered to be by the insiders. And if it was anything good, they wouldn't be hiding it so desperately and keeping that information so closely held that they kill people to protect it who haven't even committed crimes.
True.
I mean, they kill people just for asking about it sometimes. And, our government, the black ops portion of our government is completely out of control. They are not subject to presidential authority because the president doesn't even know most of them exist.
That's very true.
So he has no way to order them. He has no way to find out that Delta Force is used to assassinate civilians who get too close to the truth. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have any way to check on the secret space program. He doesn't have any way to truly know what the alien agenda is. The only exception to that probably was, since Kennedy was George Bush the first, who was the head of the CIA, would have had access to that information. Mm-hmm. But you know for sure they didn't tell Jimmy Carter about the reptilian agenda because he wouldn't have sat still for it. I can't imagine any human president who would order or allow something like chemtrails to exist, or mm-hmm. or the abduction and the assassination of innocent civilians. I can't imagine anyone who would or even a military figure who'd spent their whole life working for America. I can't imagine a general that would think it's okay to spray chemtrails into our atmosphere.
I agree.
So it tells you it tells you that they are either mind controlled by the aliens, or they are probably, in some cases, they've been replaced. The aliens have android technology. They have synthetic replication technology, which the civilian world has never even conceived of. Mm-hmm. And it's no harder to abduct the president than it is to abduct me. They've got technology which will allow them to do that with impunity. They won't get caught. It'll never be known. And how do you know that the president is the same person that they took? You can't know. And
true.
It seems apparent to me that I mean, our government, we wonder why the Congress and the president never does anything that seems to help us. It's because they're not working for our agenda.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very true. Now, I look at it this way also. There's only been one president that kind of made me go, and that was Reagan when he did his speech about, do we not have an extraterrestrial presence among us now that we have to be careful of? What do you think he was talking about at that point?
Well, I think he was trying to hint, but Reagan wasn't in control.
That's right.
George Bush ran that show. Mm-hmm. I mean, Reagan was a doddering old man when he took that job. I mean, let's face it. Reagan was not qualified at all to be the president, honestly. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was well loved, but George Bush ran that show, and when Jimmy Carter came into office, George Bush was the head of the CIA, and
That's right.
Carter called him into his office and said, "I want all the information about the aliens right now." And Bush said, "You're not qualified, and I'm not giving it to you." And he never did give it to him.
That's true, because all this goes beyond a national security measure. The chemtrail situation, I've talked to a lot of the top researchers into the chemtrail situation, geoengineering of our planet and our weather patterns and everything. And, we can get all the people and we can change this and we can change that. And it's nice to have hope, for these types of things. But
no. This is genetic warfare.
This is
genetic warfare on
beyond.
a global scale. And this is an existential threat to the human race. They are preparing transhumanism genetically and cybernetically. They are planning to change us into something which we didn't ask for and wouldn't approve of. And if they have their way, someday, humans as we know them will no longer exist.
I see the hybridization programs right now. I know for a fact that a lot of the hybrids and everything, we're all hybrids to a point. But the next aspect of humanity and everything is going to be nothing like it is right now. And that's why we're seeing such chaos on the planet right now. Not only with the geoengineering situation and the war situation, we're having complete societal breakdowns within all countries right now, really. And they're pushing everything close to a nuclear war. And I think a big reason to that is to drop the population. So the hybrid situation will be in full swing at that point. Now, we've talked about the governments and everything. Where do you think religion stands with all this?
Well, I think that it's almost certain, in my opinion, that humans were originally a genetically engineered race ourselves. Mm-hmm. The theory of evolution, as we're taught in school, it's a nice story. Unfortunately, the theory of human evolution doesn't work according to the theory of evolution itself. You can't take you can't take black folks that wander out of Africa 80,000 years ago and today end up with Eskimos and Cambodians and Polynesians and whites and Swedes and Chinese. That's not how evolution works.
And blue eyes.
Right. You can't tell me that if you took black folks and put them in Sweden, the different angle of the sun's rays is going to turn them into Swedes in a few thousand years. That's retarded.
Yeah.
That's intellectually insulting, and there's no evidence that would ever happen or has ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
And in 80,000 years, it can't happen. The creation of new races of humans is something that would require millions of years if it even happened at all.
True.
I mean, there's not only not time for Swedes to have evolved from blacks in 80,000 years. There's no evidence that there was ever a black man in Sweden until about 200 years ago, ever.
Okay.
So it simply doesn't work. And religion has been probably externally imposed upon us. It is a great method of top-down control. If you're the Pope, you basically control 1 billion people. And you can give them their morals. You can dictate their morals to them. You can tell them how to act, who to vote for. It's a great way to keep the population limited by engineering religious wars. It's a brilliant control system, and we've fallen for it hook, line, and sinker because we all want to believe that there's someone smarter and wiser than us that's in control. Well, there is, but it's not God. It's aliens, and they're not your friends. There might be friendly aliens out there, but they are not in control of this area.
Actually, from some deep military sources that I have as well, and from when I was working in the programs, what I learned, that these good ones out there are really not going to do anything until humanity itself stands up in mass and tries to go against the situation, and then they would have a chance to come in. But with the system the way it is right now, and the military is the way it is, all these, the negative aliens, shall we say, have such a rap on humanity with our government.
And we've invited them in.
Oh, yeah, that's the bad part.
We've signed a treaty with them, and we've told them to come on in and stay as long as you give us military tech. You're welcome, and you can have our citizens, but give us fiber optics and give us military weapons that we can use, and because they couldn't stop them anyway. Mm-hmm. And the idea that we're going to stand up in mass and resist this, it's a nice idea, but it's not going to happen because we are so kept out of the loop and in the dark that by the time we realize there's a problem, it's going to be too late to do anything.
And they've already fixed things from the inside out,
right.
And that's the key.
They already own all the important power centers.
Yeah, definitely. And this is part of all governments, the intelligence agencies, the echelon system, and everything. This is all working together. And a lot of people think it's just the CIA or, the elite doing this and everything. This goes far beyond the elite. I've said this in many shows. This goes, the survival of humanity, as far as I am concerned, within the next 50 years is the biggest worry we have right now. Everything is heading towards nuclear conflict. The geoengineering is literally affecting every single living thing on this planet right now. From our food sources to the air we breathe to the particleization, nanoparticles that are raining down on us from the chemtrails into our forest. Look at the fires we're having right now. Things of that nature.
Fukushima is killing the Pacific Ocean, by the way.
That's where I was heading.
It's basically killed the Pacific Ocean, and it's not limited to the Pacific Ocean. That radiation is going to spread through all the oceans. There's no end in sight to the radiation output from Fukushima. Those reactors are out of control, and they're burning their way towards the center of the Earth, and that radiation continues to come out, and the whole west coast of the United States is being inundated with radiation in our water and our air. It's the biggest disaster which has ever happened in this world. Ever. And this is just from one single nuclear facility. And we've got facilities which are built to those same specs all over the United States. Mm-hmm. If it happens at one place, it's going to inevitably happen at other places. And it's just the one accident at one nuclear plant is enough to put the entire human race in danger, potentially.
Oh, it already has. It's already put us all in danger. We know that. We've seen the difference.
And science should not, I don't care what they're working on. I don't care what they're trying to discover. They shouldn't be working on anything except how to shut down those reactors. Because until we have that problem solved, nothing else matters.
Well, they even talk about, we're talking 40 or 50 years before they even say we will have the technology to do anything. Even the robots they're putting in there, within 45 minutes are burning up. So
right.
this is something that everybody, all the world power, even the military actually even complained about it when they had their ships go in there, to help what was going on. A lot of soldiers ended up with a lot of radioactive radiation, shall we say, contrived illnesses and things of this nature right off the shops. Ships had to be decontaminated and many things like that. I think we got some big things heading our way in the very, very near future that people
Absolutely.
need to seriously be looking at for the survival of humanity.
Have you seen the San Onofre power plant?
No, I haven't.
It's in Southern California. It sits right on the beach.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've seen it, but what's happening with that right now?
Well, there's nothing happening with it right now, but you get one tidal wave come in there, and you've got another nuclear plant that's devastated, and the radiation spread all throughout LA's dead.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
It literally sits right on the beach.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'm looking at also, Derek, is this, I think part of the reason that they're throwing this nuke war type situation and scenario around, and the EMP aspect of it and everything, is if they do something like that, and this goes back to what you were just talking about the radiation and having many plants, and we're talking well over 50 here, there's literally several hundred of these plants in the United States. And if you have an EMP and everything goes down, it's really going to be an impossibility for them to keep generators and everything up to stop these meltdowns. So we're looking at a serious nuclear scenario here, just from, let's say, one bomb going off high up in the atmosphere.
Oh, man. There was a Russian general. This is a terrible thing. Russian general said at a meeting of their top staff, he said, do you realize that if you dropped 2 nuclear weapons in the right place, you could wipe out the whole United States? Drop one in the San Andreas Fault, drop one in the Yellowstone supervolcano, and the whole country's toast. And they're right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the San Andreas Fault we've been having problems with. They're expecting a big one anyway. So what's going to happen is, if they decided to do that, there's actually 2 points that they could hit the San Andreas Fault. I've seen the reports on this that would create a cascade effect. I was in the Loma Prieta quake, and I was down in the San Joaquin Valley, and we literally watched the land do just like the ocean, wave after wave come through it. Moved our car. My wife was watching me. We had family there, and we watched it. I jumped on top of our car, because I wanted to see what the car was going to do, actually. And the car moved about 3 feet backwards and 3 feet forwards. And I was just like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen when the big one hits, because San Joaquin Valley will liquefy because there's water 10 feet underneath. Everything could just disappear right there. What do you see?
And we've got an even bigger fault off the coast of Seattle, by the way, the Juan de Fuca fault, which is overdue for an enormous quake.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think all of these will work with the Yellowstone thing. We all know that the Yellowstone is changing in many ways now. And once it goes off... I look at Mount
Rainier every day, and I just hope, man, just don't erupt while I'm here. St. Helens was more than bad enough.
Oh, yeah. I used to be a guide at Mount St. Helens there before it blew. I used to spend a lot of time on top of that mountain. And I've climbed Mount Rainier. I climbed Mount Rainier one time, so I know what's going on there. What do you see right now as the biggest threat? I know we have the extraterrestrial agenda and everything. What do you see as the biggest threat of them right now? Do you think that all these wars and everything are being created right now so they can continue their agenda?
Well, it's possible. I mean, we've got a big problem with Islam, which it doesn't require aliens to create wars there, because Islam is inherently incompatible with any other belief system. And and I'm not saying anything against individual Muslims. I've known plenty of them who are peaceful and they're fine, but they're apostates. They're not practicing Islam by the book.
I agree.
The ones who are people like Ayatollah Khomeini and Abu Nidal, or people who are practicing Islam as it is supposed to be practiced, which is eternal war against everyone until the entire world has been force converted or killed. And so, by its nature, it's a threat to everyone. So, if you take away the wars that involve Islam, you see that the world is basically at peace right now. But it's a great way to, for one thing, extract wealth from the population. Because how many uncounted trillions of dollars have been have been sucked right out of our economy and our pocketbooks by military expenditures for wars that we don't even care about. I mean, what do we care what happens in Afghanistan? We don't care.
Well, the thing that what they did there is they totally destabilized the Middle East by taking out Saddam Hussein, taking out the president of Egypt, Omar Gaddafi, and now they're trying to do Assad. One thing I've noticed about this is all the countries in areas that we're fighting right now are not part of the central banking system, which is part of the big control. Now, this central banking system, do you think this is ran by people dealing with these extraterrestrials as well?
Absolutely.
I
think there's no question. And I mean, Iraq was not about Al-Qaeda. It was about Iraq going off the petrodollar. And as soon as we took control there, they went right back on the petrodollar, which is worth trillions to the central bankers of the United States. Which the central banks here are controlled basically by the Rockefellers, who are the agents of the Rothschilds in America. The Rothschilds run this world, and they own the financial system of this entire world. And it's commonly believed, and I'm sure that it's true, that the Illuminati is at the top levels in league with and controlled by alien interests.
I agree.
Draco reptilian specifically. The 9/11 was not. It had nothing to do with Al-Qaeda. It was an Illuminati hit job. Nobody has the juice to pull that off other than the Illuminati. No president could do that, but the Illuminati can.
Yeah, and the thing about the 9/11 situation was they did that to grab the emotions. See, the bad thing about human beings, and I'm not saying this about everybody's intelligence, but we're pretty stupid. The first thing they're going to do is get you in an uproar that somebody did something like the 9/11 issue. They get your emotions, as we say, cocked like a gun, and then boom. It was supposed to go after one individual, and we ended up in Iraq. They're totally the opposite direction that they said they were going to go for, So
right, that was planned. It was planned long in advance, and we were led. They were leading us down the path of lies before the dust was even settled at the World Trade Center. They were already blaming the wrong people. You can't have buildings implode like that.
That's right.
From an airplane crash. It doesn't happen. You can't do it without disconnecting the base from the floor and disconnecting the base from itself at load-bearing floors. It's impossible. It's physically impossible. And you cannot have an airplane crash into the Pentagon and have no airplane wreckage. It doesn't. That's not how the world works.
We've already put that to rest, as a matter of fact, because we've got several different angles of the Pentagon being hit by a cruise missile. You cannot mistake it. You cannot mistake it. So, just with 9/11 itself, they started with the Oklahoma bombing, then the Pentagon gets hit. What was really interesting is the intelligence agencies, FBI, were out there when the Pentagon got hit, and they were picking up these little pieces of things, putting them in their car and getting out of there as quick as they could. And within 2 weeks, they had graveled everything over. Now that was fast. That's like when somebody dies.
Yeah, same at 9/11, same at the World Trade Center. That was a crime scene. I mean, that should have been yellow taped off. It took them years to investigate just one airplane crash in other places, but instead they were hauling that steel away as fast as they could, man. They don't want anybody to get to examine that stuff.
It got it out of the country. They shipped it completely out of the country. That was the interesting thing right there.
They say that the Dracos are, that the bloodline families, which are the Rothschilds, the Windsors, and the story about them, are genetically hybridized already with reptilian aliens. And if you look at someone like Prince Philip, man, it's like you're looking at an iguana. I mean, there's nobody that looks more reptilian than that. I mean, you can't look at him without thinking, boy, he looks like a big lizard. It's hard to deny that. And when you look at the actions that they're carrying out, they are certainly not anything for humanity's benefit.
Oh, no, it doesn't seem like they're just so worried about their bloodline and carrying on and continuing what they're doing. That's how come, like we were talking about the Pizzagate thing, and the child, pornography, all the stuff that goes along with that, and that goes right along with a lot of the agendas of these other ETs that are negative towards mankind. They really don't care.
If you're on here, fascinating interview. Listen to Arizona Wilder being interviewed by David Icke. It's shocking, and I mean, listen to it yourself and see if you think she's lying, because it doesn't sound like she's lying to me.
I'll have to do that. What was the name of that again?
She goes by the name Arizona Wilder, and she was a She was a sex slave for the royal family, and she describes human sacrifice ceremonies for between the royal family, the Rothschilds, and other royal families in Europe, at Balmoral Castle and other places. She witnessed them, and she describes them in detail. She said they shapeshifted into reptilian form during those ceremonies.
I'll be darned, I hadn't heard that. I'm going to have to listen to that. Definitely.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it.
Yeah, you definitely do that. I want to talk about your book here a little more. You can get it on Amazon, as a matter of fact,
Alien Contact, Difficult Truth.
So
I'm very proud to say that, and humbled and gratified to say that everyone who's rated it so far has given it a full 5 stars, and some people have even said that it's the best UFO book they've ever read. And I hope that's true, and it's humbling to hear that, but it's very gratifying too, because I designed that book to be something that could blow the rest out of the water if I could do it.
Well, I think also people feel the truth. That's a big thing here. We still have the ability to turn around and feel that which is dark and that which is light. And that spirit inside of us tells us what's going on. And your book is one of them things. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. And I even tried to go give a review, but folks out there, if you don't buy $50 worth of Amazon products, it's hard to leave a review, so, and I don't buy much over the internet because I preach, I do what I preach. I do everything locally, unless I can't get it locally, of course, then I'll go. But,
you'll feel the truth when you read that book. I don't have to sell it. It will sell itself, and you'll feel the truth, and you'll know that it's true, that when you read it, you'll feel it inside you.
What particular thing in that book, there's a word I'm looking for, that you think that will really grab people and make them go, oh my God, this is happening right now, and what am I going to do about it? Any specific part of that book that is really going to stand out to the population?
Well, one thing is, I believe that I have the most detailed description of abductions yet produced by anyone. The most detailed memories, and every word of them is true to the best of my ability, and also a detailed analysis which is based on countless interviews and conversations with people in the Black Ops who've worked it from the other side, and you'll learn more about abductions there than you've ever learned before, no matter who you are. I can guarantee it. And the other thing might be, I've got transcripts of some military-style briefings that I was given by the gentleman I was referring to earlier, the best contact I'll probably ever have. And he sat me down and gave me the bottom line on things that I would never have had the chance to learn otherwise. The inside scoop on aliens and the military's interaction with them, and the treaty that we signed. He described the terms of the treaty and what it involves and who we signed it with. And he goes into detail about the Greys, but mostly also about the reptilian race, who he's had the opportunity to meet personally a number of alien races during the course of his duties, and he's met the reptilians too, and he describes them in quite great detail. He doesn't like them a bit.
Yeah, you and I have talked before. I've met several of these races too, and there is a couple of them that you just don't want to deal with because they do not have our best interest at heart. We've got a couple minutes here. I was just wondering, is there any other bases besides Dulce that your contacts wouldn't talk about?
Well, there's none that they specifically refuse to talk about, but they did mention some others. There's one off the coast of California. There's one off the coast of South Africa, off the coast of Johannesburg. I don't know how far out. There's a military base under a lagoon in Puerto Rico, and I guess that's the only ones that they mentioned specifically. And the underground bases here, there are entrances to the underground tunnel system in every state of the Union, and multiple entrances. And they've got magnetic levitation-based subway lines inside there for rapid travel that they're capable of reaching Mach 3. You can get on a subway train in LA, and you can be in Washington before you're done watching Star Wars.
That's very true, because when I was in Denver, Colorado, we had access to see these tunnels and the grab trains is what they call them. And
right, and we don't have those in civilian life. Only Japan has those civilian lots because we can't afford them for the civilian world, but they've got them all across the country underground. So that's
very true.
You want to know where our national debt is being caused by? It's not little kids having free school lunches, man. It's not people on Social Security. It's the black budget. If you had the money back from the black budget, we would not only have our national debt paid off tomorrow, we'd have that much money in savings too.
Very true, very true. Well, we've come to the end of our hour, and that was fast. I'm gonna have to start doing 2-hour shows. But the fast is okay.
Me on, brother. Appreciate it.
You betcha. Now, everybody, listen, the alien contact, the truth about the whole situation. You need to go to Amazon and get Derek's book. Derek, how can everybody contact you?
I'm on Facebook. If you go to facebook.com/DerekTyler665, you can get to my Facebook personal page. And I'm going to have a website coming up soon, but it's not up quite yet because I just plain haven't had time to do it. I've been sick all winter, and I haven't had time to get the website started. Yeah,
you have been sick for a while here and everything. I'm glad that you're starting to get better, and we all send our prayers and love to you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was Derek Tyler right there, and he told you the raw truth there. So you want to pay close attention. You want to contact him and go to Amazon, get his book and everything. And with that said, I want you to just understand that we're going to have another great show for you next week, too. And we're going to have Derek back on the show probably several times here because we're just scratching the surface of what's going on.
Yep. Anytime you want.
You betcha, my friend. Thank you very much. So this is WhiteCrow for Quantum Quest Radio, signing off and saying y'all have a good day. But get real, do your study, and realize what's really going on out there so you can do something about it. All right, have a good day.